Welcome everybody to the Single and Stiletto Show. I'm Suzanne Oshima and I'm a matchmaker and dating coach at Dream Bachelor and Bachelorette, and I'm also the founder of Single and Stilettos. Today we have on our show Dr. Jed Diamond, and he's a very accomplished author of many books, but most recently of The Enlightened Marriage. And I'm so excited to have him here today because today he's going to tell us the one thing men want more than sex. I know, ladies, you're dying to know the answer to this. But before we jump into it, Jed, I would love for you to tell our audience a little bit about you and what made you become a psychotherapist that really focused on relationships and, more importantly, about the issues that can come up in relationships with men.
Sure, Suzanne, and thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. Really, there were two things that got me interested. One, personal relationships were difficult for me, confusing for me, even as a therapist. And I had two marriages that, came and went, didn't last. And I said, I really want to figure this out. And I learned some things. And my wife now, Carlin, and I have been together 37 years. So it was really somewhat my personal quest, and secondly, professionally, having worked in the field for more than 40 years, I realized that there really was not a lot of good information about men and what men needed, what men wanted, what men could do to have good relationships. So those two things really drew me in and gives me the excitement and passion that I have to continue the work that I'm doing.
Well, and that's exactly why I asked you to be a guest on this show, because I know you have all this great information. And so let's jump into this great topic of what is the one thing men want more than sex? Because I know every woman out there is going, oh, men just want sex. But what's the one thing, Jed?
Well, that really was the beginning of this discussion, because I've been in a men's group that's been meeting now for 38 years.
Oh, wow.
We've been meeting regularly for 38 years. And my wife, Carlin, attributes a lot of the good relationship that we have, she and I, to the fact that I've been in a men's group all these many years. And in the men's group, we would talk about, when nobody's looking, no women around, just the guys, what do we want? And I'm not saying we're not interested in sex. We're all heterosexual guys. We have all had interests in sex most of our lives. But as we talked, we realized there was more to what we wanted, and that so much of the dialogue that goes on seems to focus on this belief that all men want is sex. And I think it's a false belief. It's a myth. And what it covers over is a whole lot of other things that men want, in terms of intimacy and love and connection. And here's the thing that I found in my own life and in working with so many men and their partners, is that what men want even more than sex is what I call a safe harbor. And what I mean by that is that, so many of us are in a very competitive world in most of our lives. We're trying to achieve success. We're trying to be successful in our relationships. We're trying to, be successful in our work lives and in our careers. And when we come home, when we are with, our partner, and we can, in a sense, let down our hair and just really let ourselves be real, and hopefully we have the kind of relationship we can do that, is what we really want is to feel safe. We want to be with a woman where we can not be pushing, not be trying, not trying to achieve, and can just let ourselves be held, be nurtured, to be allowed the comfort and the connection of a woman's body, and not just her body, but that feeling of being comforted, being cared for, being nurtured, that so many of us have resisted all our lives, that we thought if we let ourselves be this vulnerable, we'll be in danger. Many of us have had experiences with women, just as women have with men, where the relationships weren't safe. And what I think we really all long for, and I think this is true for women as well, is that we want a safe harbor. That was the term that came out of my relationship with Carlin. That's what I want. I want that kind of feeling of being able to, really allow myself to be safe. And if I shared that with other men and women, they really resonate with that. They say, yes, that's what I want. And women have said, oh, I so want that for my man. I've so tried to provide that kind of safe nurturing so that the man can have a safe harbor. So that's a piece of that story of what men want more than sex.
So what I'm hearing, though, from everything that you said is not only do they want that safe harbor physically, because you talked about being able to just be hugged or, held in that way, but I also am hearing that men also want a safe harbor emotionally, that they can share freely and not get chastised for it or criticized for it or put down for it. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I say that often what I found in my work with men and women is that men often subconsciously, they're not trying to, but often subconsciously we frighten women. That could be because we're sometimes bigger physically, our voices are deeper and louder, and we can get, exciting and emotional. And for a woman, it can make her feel frightened, scared. The other side of that is I find that women, again, subconsciously not trying to, often shame men. They want them to be different, and they're not even aware when they're saying things or doing things that are basically saying, you're not doing it right. You're not touching me right. You're not loving me right. You're not. And so you're absolutely right. That feeling of knowing that we're emotionally accepted. And it's multi-layered. We can know it with our minds, but really getting it deeply into our experience and noticing. I had to notice ways that I unconsciously made Carlin feel afraid. And she had to begin to notice those ways that she just was, how she was acting and interacting that felt shaming and put down and were subtly, saying there's something the matter with me. I'm not doing it right. So these are subtle things that men and women, when they learn that, can really provide that safe harbor that really provides the glue in a relationship that can hold a marriage together for, 30, 40, 50, 60 years.
Well, so can you share with us like a couple tips on how a woman can provide a safe harbor for a man?
Well, there's a number of things. I think the probably the basic thing is that she can work on feeling safe in her own body, in her own spirit. Because often women and all of us come to relationships with a certain degree of anxiety and fear. Because the truth is, we all have what I call shadows from the past. We all have been in relationships, whether in our family, in a previous marriage, in a previous love relationship, where there was some abuse, neglect, abandonment. And so often women come to a relationship with their own fears, their own sense of inadequacies. So the first thing women can do is to feel safe themselves. And to the degree that a woman feels safe and secure in her own being, then it makes it easier for her to be, open-hearted, open-armed, open physically, emotionally, spiritually with the man in her life.
Well, these have been some great tips. So, Jed, can you tell our audience how they can find you?
Sure. My website is menalive.com. So that's kind of where in the internet world I hang out. If you're in Willits, Northern California, come, I'm around. Come by and see me. And I have a very special gift for the people that are tuned in that are here on the show and are tuning in is I have an interview class that I did with Iyanla Vanzant, who is most people know on the Oprah Network, and she has a show, Iyanla Saved My Life. I've known her for years, and we did a class together, and there's a video portion, a very, very powerful video that you can get for free if you sign up on my website that gives her tips for what women need to know about men based on her long experience in her own family, in her own love life, and in the many people that she's worked with. So menalive.com, and come join me there, find out about what I do, and tune into Iyanla and get that video if it's something you would like.
Well, I think everybody's going to go get that free video because everybody knows her, and I will too. So thank you so much, Jed, for joining us on the Single and Stiletto Show.
Very glad to be with you. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us on the Single and Stiletto Show. Our show is available both in video format and podcast format. If you'd like to view the videos, go to singleandstilettos.com. If you'd like to get the podcast, you can download it from iTunes. If you'd like to get our free ebook on the 3 secrets guaranteed to attract any man based on scientific research, just click right here on the video or go to singleandstilettos.com.